Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be covering a topic that I've had many people asking me about, and that is how I've been growing my side delts, my lateral delts. What has led to them looking so much fuller, so much bigger, and it's actually had quite a significant impact on my overall aesthetic. And I've been prioritizing them for an extended period of time now, and I'm going to walk you through kind of why I think they're important for people who want an aesthetic physique to prioritize them, bodybuilders or not. Also, why in particular is important for me, and then how I've been able to do that and how they've grown over time. You can kind of see them here in some sort of way. Ada is also on my lap, so it's kind of, she's hiding the left delt here. So anyway, let's dive into things. So let's try and get an understanding of the importance of the side delt and why it's important, particularly as a bodybuilder. So here, my thank you to my guy, Wayne. He is doing a fantastic job, and he got some really cool footage from the recent WNBF Worlds, which is arguably the most competitive natural bodybuilding stage there is in the world right now. And here we have the pro middleweight category. There's no reason I've particularly chosen this category apart from the fact I know one of the competitors here has crazy side delts, and he has done really well this season, and he won this category too. That is Benjamin Schuster. I don't know if I said his last name right. I apologize if he ends up watching this. He is from Germany. He's only 21 years old. It's insane. He has better side delts than I'll probably ever have in my life, but I'm going to try my best. But what you can see here is one of the bodybuilding poses called the front relaxed, and this is the pose you come into first when you come onto stage, and this is the pose you actually spend the longest amount of time in, and the judges are assessing you for symmetry here. And ultimately what symmetry means, apart from being kind of symmetrical left to right, up to down, it's also an X frame. They're looking for a flowy X frame. So if you kind of like squint your eyes and look at the guys on stage, and you'll kind of see a bit of a symmetry, you'll get a bit of a silhouette, because we're not judging them on muscularity, we're not judging them on conditioning. We're literally looking for that kind of X frame. You can kind of get a bit of a picture when you do that. And a big part of the X is obviously the width up top. So either you have wide clavicles, let's just play some of this footage so that you're seeing something here. So either you have wide clavicles and a small waist and then like big sweeping quads, or what you have is like huge shoulders, right? So if you don't have that tiny waist, or even if you do, you want to have your shoulders as big as possible. So you look at these guys again in that front relax shot, and they all have like nicely like round shoulders, and they all have nice small waists. So yeah, it's just such an important shot. And let's not just stick to the natty guys. When we think about aesthetics, who do we think about? I think about Chris Bumstead. He's like literally the first person that comes to my mind. And you just look at these thick shoulders, and almost like any shot from the front, they're just so pronounced. Again here, the side delts coming through, this nice round muscle belly, so important for width and creating that wide upper base. Just such an important muscle group for, again, those visual aesthetics, particularly on stage, particularly if you're in like a vest. If you've got obviously something on, then they're just going to make you look thicker up top anyway, in fact. So you're getting the idea, hey, these are an important muscle group for visual aesthetics as a competitive bodybuilder, but also, hey, there's a reason everyone idolizes Chris Bumstead, because he looks amazing, and he's got some huge side delts as well. So let's just rewind a little bit here, and let's look at me, 2014, my first bodybuilding show, and we're going to get a bit of a look at why the side delts in particular for me have been something I've had to work on. Because again, if you squint and you look at these guys on stage, you're not going to see someone, myself here on the left. If you didn't know it was me, there you are. I don't have great side delts, and I don't have a great X frame, particularly because, hey, this is something else I've been working on, my quads. Obviously, I've already had a video on that. I could pose better here, but there's someone like, hey, Chris, here in the number 60. Really nice X frame that he has there. And again, not just wide up top, he's also got thick shoulders up top too. So let's see if there's anything else. Actually, from this angle, my the delts don't look too bad, but I'm just not up here as thick as some of these other guys. I needed those side delts to just be bigger. I know I needed to be bigger overall. I've come a long way since here, but particularly when you see me like next to Ben here or any of these other guys, I just don't have this nice kind of X frame as much as these other guys, particularly again up top. I don't have particularly wide shoulders, so it's just something I have definitely needed to work upon. And even though they've come up a lot, so I'm over here on the right, again, as I'm against these guys here, who I would argue all have slightly nicer symmetry than me, at least from this angle. You can definitely say that. John in particular here, really nice and wide up top, but again, Charlie's very good. Small waists and like big, like Charlie's shoulders are ridiculous. This is partly like muscle insertions, muscle bellies, stuff that's out of control. How do they actually show? But certainly you can make them bigger, and that's going to really, really help your visual aesthetic. So if I get me in the middle somewhere else, like here, look at this. So I just look a little bit blocky. I don't have that nice symmetry. My guy on my right here, much smaller waist, really rounded cap delts, sweeping quads. Like this is really lovely stuff, right? And Martin here also doing a good job, but I just needed more of this width. You just see they're not super capped. They've come on. My symmetry's certainly come on since 2014. This is 2021. But it needs to be improved, and my posing definitely needs to be improved. I just don't think I was particularly hitting this front relax as well as I could do. But like I said, front relax is super important, and so I needed those side delts to come up. So now I'm going to talk about it from a training approach, like how I've been training my lateral delts to make sure that they're growing and growing at their best pace. And so there's a few areas I want to cover here. So we're going to be covering exercise selection, and I'll actually just have some clips as I'm talking here of some of the exercises I've been using. I'm going to go over my muscle connection, kind of somewhat related to exercise selection, but execution. And so you'll see how I'm executing. And then also like volume, frequency, intensity, those sort of factors too. So they're first within my upper body sessions. And so that just gets them a little bit more prioritized. I come in fresh for them, so hopefully I can give them more effort and quality by doing that. So before my upper body days, I'm doing side delts. I'm training them 4 times a week. I've always trained them at least 3 in the past few years, up to 4. And really this is because the side delts, don't know about any of you guys, doesn't get particularly sore. They recover very quickly. And so I find, hey, if I can train them again, rather than just waiting whilst they're like able to be trained again, why not? That kind of, hey, more volume is better so long as you can recover mentality. Let's go smash them again. They're a small muscle group and they're hard to damage in the same way as, say, a hamstring. So my frequency 3 to 4 times a week, first in my sessions. And then in terms of volume, again, trying to work with high amounts of volume with them. Again, so long as I can recover. So in my first week after a deload, they're fresh. They're a bit more sensitive to volume. I don't need quite as much, but I'll already be starting with 3 to 4 sets potentially in that first week. And so that's already a significant amount of volume if you're doing 3 to 4 times a week. And then I will auto-regulate my volume based off how's my recovery. So again, am I recovering between sessions? Typically always am. Then how is that stimulus to the muscle? How is the disruption, the perturbation? How is the pump that I'm getting? Is it in a really solid place? And obviously performance is objective, and that needs to be taken first and foremost too. I tend to find myself working up to about 5 sets, and that could be 5 sets 4 times a week for sure. And once I get to about 5 sets, I'm in a position where I've got that really strong stimulus, strong pump, really good disruption. And I just feel like anything above that, if I have tried it now and then to do like 6 or something, and it's just felt a little bit like, hey, I'm going through the motions, it's not feeling as beneficial. And so I'm actually working right within that range that you often hear of a 10 to 20 sets. So if I'm doing 4 times a week, 5 sets, that's 20 sets, right? So I'm working in that range. Obviously, I'll get some work through if I do a little bit of overhead pressing, which I don't do much of. I'll get a little bit through some of my other pressing, but not so much direct lateral delt work. I don't think, personally for me, overhead pressing movements hit the side delts super well. I just don't get that from them. And then the movements that I've been prioritizing that you're seeing here are all movements that I've significantly changed how I approach my side delt training. It was always a case that I'd use some cables and dumbbells, but I'd use quite a lot of dumbbell work. The problem with dumbbell work, and I've talked about this tons on the channel already, is you don't really have that loaded stretch. And we're beginning to understand of the range of motion that's most important for hypertrophy, it seems to be that stretched position. You want to be loading that and you want to be getting into as long a muscle length as kind of possible to generate tension through it, because that seems to be the most hypertrophic range of motion. And therefore, something like a cable, especially if you have it at hand height, which I always am doing, you're able to make it hardest at that beginning portion, so it drops off as you come short. Whereas a dumbbell, at the bottom, if you're just standing and raising it to your side, it's now hardest up at the top when you're short, and there's not really so much challenge in that lengthened position. So I've moved away from dumbbells so much. And if I am using dumbbells, I typically either use them as like a finisher, like a burnout, or I will do them, as you'll see here, either leaning on a bench so that I'm shifting my body so that in the starting range, there is actually tension there, and then it drops off, coming a little bit more horizontal to the load. And then the other way again is similar. I'm on an incline bench and I let the weights come behind me for a bit more of a stretch. And I again incline myself so that there seems to be, I can generate some more tension through that length and range. So that works quite nicely. I do, however, still heavily rely on single arm cable lateral movements, lateral delt movements, because also single arm means you can come across your body or behind your body. I haven't got a video of behind body, but I've been doing across body and behind body lateral raises for over a year now. And you can get a bigger stretch when you do them single arm versus two arms at once. It takes more time. That can be annoying, but that's great. And then this prime machine that you will have seen me using as well, I can bias that to make it hardest due to shifting the cam, because it allows you to do that on these prime selectorized machines. I can make it hardest at the start, and that's what I'm doing. The other thing you'll see I'm doing is, I think all these videos will probably have me coming to shoulder height, because I pretty much do all of my lateral delt work now in a lengthened range and just come to shoulder height, and I don't bother coming up here. Personally, I just found I wasn't really getting anything from that extra short position, and it was just kind of fatiguing me and sometimes even felt uncomfortable. So even orthopedically, it sometimes just felt better doing this just to shoulder height. So those are the exercises I'm using and why, and that's why I'm executing them the way I am. The other thing you might notice is you might think in some of them my technique isn't pristine. You might think, hey, maybe you bend your elbow a little bit much with some of these cross-body lateral raises. This is where that kind of discussion of my muscle connection comes in. I've just found that a slight bend in my elbow means that the tension really gets felt through the side delt and not through the elbow, which I often do find. I tend to use D handles and not cuffs. To be honest, I haven't tried cuffs in ages. I have some, I just haven't used them. When I did try them like a long time ago, I was just like, hey, I prefer just holding onto the D handle. It's also just simpler because the gym just has those. So I might try cuffs again because some people really enjoy using the cuff. So that might be something I do try, or you guys can try. And the other thing, so we've talked about now, exercise selection, just went over that, kind of my muscle connection, execution, talked about exercise order, and then also volume and frequency. And now the other thing that I want to talk about is intensity. So something I've been doing in the last 6 or so months is training them harder, more frequently. So particularly when the meta-regression came out from Zach Robinson, we had him on the podcast to talk about it. It just became very evident that, hey, you get more hypertrophy the closer you are to failure, and isolation-based lifts are not as fatiguing as big compound lifts. You think about hack squat versus a lateral raise. Lateral raises, if you take a lateral raise to failure, it doesn't wreck you. In my head, I thought, oh, maybe like the fatigue isn't worth it. But for me personally, it's been worth it. So I will start week 1 like at a 2 area at least, and then I'll progress via reps and load, and I will even allow myself because this mesocycle I've gone for 7 weeks. So it's like, how can you progress them for 7 weeks? Well, I'd allow myself to match, but I'll even allow like a little bit more form breakdown than I used to in the past. If I feel like that form breakdown isn't to the degree that the target muscle is no longer the limiting factor. I make sure that the target muscle is still the limiting factor when I allow that to occur. So that's been something that's new to me, just not being sloppy, but just being aware. And I think it's more of an advanced thing to allow like a bit of technical breakdown, but still that target muscle is the limiting factor. So those are some of the things I've been doing to bring up my side delts with my training. So now you're going to see some recent posing that I did at the Cut gym, which hopefully we're going to have a vlog out very shortly, because we had a training day there with our clients at Revive Stronger, and there was some heavy down lighting, and it was just like, wow, I actually look really, really good here, and I look like I lift. And you're just going to see like how much my side delts have come on, how full they are. I've even got veins through them and vascularity that I never used to have. And I may even throw up some posing with my client Rob, who came second at the WNBF Worlds. He was in the lightweight class, and yeah, it was just a fantastic day, but cool to get under that lighting, because sometimes you don't truly know how your physique is looking until you get it under like some good conditions where actually you get to see it. I don't know if any of you ever done that, where you maybe you travel somewhere and you get under, like in the bathroom, you're like, oh, this lighting man, do I actually look like that? And you're like, wow, okay. So it's pretty cool. So yeah, lots of patience here. When you look at the starting photos of where my side delts were in that front relax shot, that was 2014. I'm almost a decade from that first competition. And I'd already been training a long time before that first competition. So these things take time. They're not going to grow massively overnight. But I am very sure if you use some of the principles that I talked about here in a very systematized and auto-regulated manner, I think you'll find your side delts will start to transform. So guys, if you enjoy these, always let me know. Give me a comment, give me a like, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it. Otherwise, I'll catch you in the next one.